During his undergraduate years, Jack Breslin was Michigan State's hottest athlete, lettering in baseball, basketball, and football. It was his talent in football that got the greatest attention. At fullback, number 36 was called one of the nation's best wartime players in 1944. That was the year he carried the ball for 795 yards and scored nearly a third of the Spartans' total season points. The news media called him the blonde bullet from Battle Creek and the university's most eligible bachelor, but he turned down a chance to play professional football in order to work for the Chrysler Corporation. He returned to Michigan State in 1950 as Assistant Director of Alumni Relations. Since then, he's held many administrative posts, including Director of the nationally recognized Placement Services Office, Secretary of the Board of Trustees and Executive Vice President, and Vice President for Administration and Public Affairs. During his tenure, more than 60 new buildings and other facilities have been added to the MSU campus. Jack Breslin officially retired last July, but at President John DiBiasio's request, he's currently serving as senior consultant and principal liaison with the Michigan legislature. Recently, the Board of Trustees voted to name MSU's new $30 million sports arena in honor of Jack.
I appreciate this very much. I don't think any of you can understand what this means to me, my family, and to have this great university that I love so much do this for me. It's really overwhelming.
He's been called Mr. MSU, and many of his colleagues agree.
I think that he is respected, and I think that respect comes out of a couple things. One is a enthusiasm for his mission and enthusiasm for Michigan State University. And the second thing is an honesty, that Jack does not lie to you. He doesn't cover up things. He'll tell you like it is, and you can trust his opinion.
I think it'll be clear to everyone that Jack believed in the institution, made a significant contribution, and was a person who really enjoyed being a part of the university community. He was popular and knew everybody.
He means a lot to this university. He's had opportunities when he could have left and gone elsewhere for perhaps a presidency, and chose not to. He chose to stay here with Michigan State, his first love, and we're real glad he did.
Again, I think it is that he's Mr. Michigan State. Jack has enjoyed a wonderful relationship on both sides of the aisle with the legislature, and much of what Michigan State is today is to Jack's credit.
I suppose Jack Breslin, as much as anybody, reflects the spirit that's Michigan State University. And I am so pleased that the Board of Trustees concurred that the new facility should be named in his honor. Nothing could be more appropriate, and no man more deserving. And I think it touched him deeply, and I'm glad that it happened during my tenure as president. I'm proud to have been given that privilege.
In my view, no one individual has done more than Jack Breslin to advance the significant best interests of MSU over the last quarter of a century, and I could not say more about anyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a pleasure to welcome Mr. Jack Breslin. Jack, I do have to follow up on the comments that John Hanna just made. What is that special relationship that you have with John Hanna?
Well, David, Dr. Hanna is probably my second father. My father was killed when I was 13, and from the day I visited this campus for the first time, Dr. Hanna took an interest in me. And for this, I'm indebted to him forever, and he, without question, made a significant contribution to whatever I have become. I love the man dearly, and just to give you a little idea of what happened to me in 1946 when I played in the Chicago All-Star game. We played the pros out over in Chicago. I was in the dormitory all by myself, packing to go to LA because I had been signed to a professional contract by the Los Angeles Dons. There were two football leagues back in 1946, the All-American Conference and the NFL. I had been drafted by the Bears, but the LA Dons gave me a better contract, so I signed with them, just like most people that play professional football do. There was one telephone on that floor, and it kept ringing and ringing. It was a paid phone out in the lobby. I finally thought I'd better answer the phone, and it was John Hanna. He said, "Jack, I listened to the game. I heard your name a number of times," and he said, "I want to congratulate you for winning the game." Not me personally, but the college all-stars beat the pros that night. And he said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm heading for the coast tomorrow morning." And he said, "I think you've played games long enough." I'd been offered a job with the Chrysler Corporation. He told me then, he said, "I think you should think about this. I think you should think about the offer that had been given to you by the Chrysler Corporation." And as a result of that conversation, I didn't sleep all night. The next morning I went home. I did not go to the coast. And less than 3 days later, I was working for the Chrysler Corporation.
In retrospect, do you regret having made that decision?
I don't. Well, I think everybody would like to try their hand or take their chances as a pro player and say, well, I was a professional football player, but that's not important to me anymore. That was the best advice I ever got in my life. I'm glad I accepted it, and things have turned out just great for me.
But as it turned out, you were only with the Chrysler Corporation a few short years. It was about 1950, I believe, that you got yet another call from John Hanna.
That's right, and he asked me to come back and asked me if I'd be interested in coming back and work for the university. I said, well, I'm not sure, but I said I'll at least come back and talk to you about it. And anytime John Hanna and you are in the room together, John Hanna always wins. You're one of the most persuasive persons you could ever talk with. I made the right decision when I came back here, too.
That first year you did come back to Michigan State, you served in what capacity?
I was hired as the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations and their Field Secretary. I worked for Star Kiesler, and my major responsibility really was to set up brand new alumni clubs in the state of Michigan. And we set up about 60 alumni clubs that year. We wrote a handbook for our alumni clubs on activities that they should follow. And I stayed with the alumni office for another 2.5 years. Well, I stayed there until 1953, so I was there for about 3 years.
You know, I suppose at that time, too, that alumni associations, alumni clubs, were not viewed as highly or perhaps as importantly as they are today.
I think Dr. Hanna at that point, he had a vision of where this university was going to go. We used our alumni clubs to help us recruit students. We used our alumni clubs to get our alumni into the high schools so we could have people participate in college and university days. We used our alumni clubs to help us recruit football players and basketball players and other individuals for athletic teams. But prior to 1950, we had very, very few alumni clubs, and the alumni clubs we had were not very active. So they're important today too.
Increasingly more so, I suppose.
Oh yes, they're going to become more important, and but that's what we used them for in those days, and they were very active. I can remember I used to travel a lot in the automobile business. I was gone for a week at a time. I came back here thinking I wouldn't be on the road all the time, but I was on the road 5 nights a week visiting alumni clubs. We had one alumni club meeting after another.
And shortly after that, you went on to help shape the direction of the MSU Placement Services Office.
Yes, that was, I would guess that of all the jobs I've had at Michigan State, taking the alumni or the placement bureau from where it was when I took it over to where it was when I left was the most enjoyable job I've had. You see, when you're running a placement service, you're helping students get their first permanent job, or you're helping students get part-time jobs during the year. And on the other side of the coin, you're helping industry pick up good young talent. And so you're not only helping the students, but you're helping industry. It's a great job.
I suppose then that a good placement services facility like the one we have here at Michigan State is really one of the most important parts of any university. True?
Well, I think it is. I think one of the final responsibilities of a university is to help our students, after we provide them with an education, is to get them in the right job for their personality, for their training. And I think this is the best placement operation in America. Jack Shingleton has just done a tremendous job with that, with the Bureau, and I think if you talk with 25 industrial placement people, they'll tell you that Michigan State's placement services are by far the best.
Jack, as we said earlier, you've been responsible for the construction of at least 60 new facilities here on campus, and it seems as though we're right in the middle of yet another new building boom. How do you feel about the current wave of construction, everything from a planned biomedical library to the new arena?
No one's happier than I am about all of these facilities. The College of Veterinary Medicine facility has been long overdue. It's been needed for the last 5 or 6 years. And it takes a long time to get a program statement written, get it through the different offices downtown, and get the legislature to finally approve it. That, along with our engineering, new engineering addition and remodeling, and the biomedical library, which is going to be so important at this campus. Here we are, one of the 5th or 6th largest, or maybe the 4th largest university in the entire United States. We have one major library. We have a lot of satellite libraries around the campus that are very good. But this campus needs at least 2 major libraries. And when you consider the 3 medical schools we have here, and the strong faculty we have in the natural sciences and the science areas, it just stands to reason we need a biomedical library. And we have, the legislature did approve funds for the schematic planning, which is the first step, but that's going to come along in the next 5 years.
Taking a look at all of these construction projects, how would you characterize the current relationship MSU has with the legislature downtown?
I think it's very good, Dave. I think it's very good. I don't think it's ever been better. I think the reputation of Michigan State University throughout the state is excellent. You can't believe everything you read in the papers about things that are said about the university and some of its personalities. When you're in the political arena, you're going to get different statements made from time to time. We're in the political arena every day. We're competing with the other institutions of higher education in this state. We're competing with other departments in the state that want additional money for their programs. So it's a very competitive business, but I think Michigan State University is on a very high plane and greatly respected in this state.
Got to be a little competitive, though, considering we're only about 4 miles from the Capitol here, though.
Yes.
And it makes your job even a little bit tougher.
Yes, but it does make it a little tougher because we're kind of under the, right under the feet of the legislature, you might say. They read our state news, and they know everything that's going on around here. But on the other hand, it's very convenient for us. If I have to, some legislator wants to see me, I can be in his or her office within 10 or 15 minutes. I will take the convenience of being here in the Capitol as opposed to the criticism we get.
And Jack, in just the few seconds we have remaining, any thoughts about where Michigan State University is headed into the future, what we should be doing, what our commitment should be?
Well, first of all, we've got a great president. I think the selection of Dr. John D. Biagio is one of the outstanding efforts of this Board of Trustees. This university has only begun to reach the heights that it's going to reach in the future. All of the real good days are ahead for Michigan State. I think this university is going to be a great research center. It's a great research center now, but it's going to become a greater research center. Our undergraduate programs are very strong. Our graduate programs are very strong. We have a young, aggressive faculty. And I think with Dr. DiBiagio here and and the leadership he's going to give this institution, there's nothing but greatness ahead for Michigan State.
Jack, thank you very much. Jack Breslin, who's a senior consultant to President John DiBiagio for State and Public Affairs.